What's going on, Vikings fans? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, I'm going to be explaining to you guys why I really believe the Minnesota Vikings are going to shock the entire NFL world this upcoming season and just overall give a season preview for your football team heading into the year. But first off, I just want to say this. The Vikings are going to prove a lot of people wrong this season. If you go look at the over-under according to Vegas, it's at 6.5. And I think that's ludicrous. I think that's people overreacting to the quarterback position and overreacting to teams like the Packers and the Chicago Bears in our own division. And if you go look at any NFC North ranking, I promise you that is not coming from a Vikings media member or is not coming from a Vikings fan. You go look up NFC North predictions. Promise you right now, the Minnesota Vikings will be found in 4th place on that list. But week 1 is just around the corner, Vikings fans. And if you guys want Minnesota to pick up a victory versus the New York Giants, hit that thumbs up icon. Don't jinx us. If you guys want to get the good vibes going heading into week 1 versus New York, all you got to do, hit that thumbs up icon. Topics discussed. We're going to be talking about why the Vikings, in my opinion, do need to start fast, and we dive into the defense as why it's got a potential to be a top 10 unit in the entire National Football League. So we'll be talking about that as well. And as I really think Brian Flores will have this defense humming here. So we'll be talking about the top 10 defense as a second segment on today's show. And then our third segment coming up, we are going to be talking about a Darnold breakout season. Could it be finally happening for the former 3rd overall pick? And then also I do want to dive into Kevin O'Connell here a little bit as why I think an emergence of him becoming truly a undisputed top 10 coach in the league. Now, why do the Vikings need to start fast? Well, the number one reason is the Vikings opening schedule is brutal. And, I hate calling it a must-win game in week 1, but I really do believe this week 1 versus the New York Giants is a must-win game. I know it sounds like such just an overreaction to just one football game, but I really do believe it. Like, if the Vikings are handed a loss against the New York Giants, there is a chance they start off the season 2-8. And if you look at their first 10 games here, it is a gauntlet. Now, you got the easy one, or it should be an easy one, versus the Giants week 1. But look at those next 6 games after that. You got the 49ers at home. You got the Texans. You're in Lambeau. And then you got the Jets. Then you got the Lions. Then you got the Rams. Then you got the NFC or AFC South teams with 2 of those games on the road in the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans. And a lot of smart NFL people are extremely high on the Colts this year. So if the Vikings lose week 1, we could be looking at a very tough start here for the Minnesota Vikings. And listen, their early schedule is brutal. There is no other way around it. Like, if they truly end up struggling early on in the year, like, it is going to be chalked up to them just not playing good football and them just playing good football teams. And, there's one guy that I have had my mind set on getting revenge on him throughout, since probably 2 years ago now, is Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones absolutely cooked the Vikings in that one wild card game. He was one of the only quarterbacks that went over 375 yards, over like 50 yards rushing ever in a playoff game, and he cooked at Donatello in that weak defense that we had that one season. But now we got Brian Flores. Brian Flores is going to have that defense ready to go. And, a lot of talk was made of the Tua comments against Flo, and I didn't want to, overreact to it, but I do think this is going to get Brian Flores ticked off. He is going to want to send a message to not just his own football team, but a message to the entire NFL that he is one of the best defensive minds in the entire league. And I think if you have this defense humming and you could pick off Daniel Jones at least once, or at least twice week 1, you should be able to get a victory. And, the spread came out for week 1. I think it's ludicrous. I think the Vikings should be 3-4 point favorites in this game. But right now it stands. The spread for this game is only -1 for the Minnesota Vikings. I think it's a little disrespectful, and I think it's just speaking more to the point that, the common NFL fan, the common NFL media member truly doesn't know what the Vikings are cooking up here. And honestly, I think this should be a blowout. My score prediction for this game is 17-14 2-6. I think it's going to be a low-scoring grudge match, but I think the Vikings should be able to handle business pretty easily here versus the New York Giants. I will give the Giants credit. They have an elite front seven, one of the best in the National Football League. But I just think that the Vikings just are able to, generate some sort of consistent, run game in that game. Will open up the deep shots to Jefferson, to hopefully Addison if he ends up playing. I just think the Vikings got a really good chance of blowing out the Giants week 1. But my score prediction, 17-6. You guys predict the score of Vikings versus Giants for me down below in the comments section. What do you guys think the score is going to be? Let me know your thoughts down below. And now we can talk about the Vikings defense as why I really believe this is going to be a top 10 unit, if not top 5 in the NFL. And if I had to choose a side of the football amongst all 32 NFL teams, or all 30 NFL teams, it is probably, or 32 NFL teams. Yeah, 32. NBA's got 30. I always get those switched up. But if I had to pick a most underrated group on either side of the football, it's probably the Vikings defense. And we could start off with the edge department here. I think this is one of the best edge groups the Vikings have had over the last couple of years. Now, Jonathan Grenard coming off that 12.5 sack season for the Houston Texans. You got Andrew Van Ginkel teaming back up with Brian Flores, as it is a perfect scheme fit with Van Ginkel being one of the most versatile linebackers in the NFL. And then you also got solid edge rushers behind him. Patrick Jones, Dallas Turner. Like, what if one of those guys end up popping? This football team could be looking really good at the edge group. And, I'll say this. I think the Vikings edge group is the best since the Mike Zimmer days. Like, I understand maybe we had the more top-end talent in Daniil Hunter in past years where he was that typical 15, 16 sacks per year guy. But, in terms of a whole group, this is the best it's been in a very, very long time. And another group that's elite for the Vikes, the safety position. Cam Bynum, Harrison Smith, and Josh Metellus. That is the best three-headed monster in terms of safeties in the entire National Football League. But then even got guys like Theo Jackson, Jay Ward, and they'll get rotational snaps for this defense. But those three, Flores runs 3 safeties 94% of the time, so you'll see a whole lot of these guys. And I was trying to come up with a position for Josh Metellus. I just put flex. You're going to see him at linebacker. You're going to see him at nickel, outside corner. You even may see him coming off the edge week 1 versus the Giants. But I think the biggest question mark on this defense is the cornerback group. Now, I think Gilmore will be great. He had a great year for the Cowboys this past season. I think he's going to maintain similar play that he did last year. And then you got Shaq Griffin. Well, I was a big fan of that pickup. It's going to be an underrated move where we're going to talk about it in a couple weeks now. We're going to be like, man, if the Vikings didn't get Shaq Griffin, we're going to be looking at this group a whole lot differently. But then you had McGlothern step up in the preseason. What if we could get something out of a Caleb Evans or Fabian Morrow? You're feeling pretty confident about this group. But I think the biggest X factor, not only on the Vikings defense, but it might be the team as a whole, it's probably Byron Murphy. Now, if the Vikings could get him to play up to his contract, to play like a top 12 corner in the National Football League, then you got Gilmore on the other side, it could move mountains for this defense. So the number one guy I'm watching, week 1 versus the Giants, he'll probably get the matchup of Malik Neighbors. It's going to be that guy right there, Byron Murphy. But let's kick it to the interior of the defensive line here. Jerry Tillery, former first-round pick, he's got a lot of talent. He just hasn't been able to, put it together in the NFL. But you got Harrison Phillips, Jonathan Bullard as just solid veteran presence. Then you got Taki Taimani. He was great in the preseason. Shout out to the UDFA. But there are 2 guys I want to focus in on, Levi Drake Rodriguez and Jalen Redmond. If the Vikings could get either of those 2 to just pop year 1, where it's like, oh, snap, those 2 are legit, they're going to play, big-time reps for this defense this upcoming year, it would be huge because besides cornerback, the second weakest group on this Vikings team is that interior of the defensive line. Now, I don't think this is a hot take at all. And honestly, I think this is a freezing cold take. But I think the Vikings defense will be undisputed top 10 this year, if not top 5. I think, they got the talent, they got the defensive coordinator to be top 10. But if they want to take that next step and really be considered one of the best units in the National Football League, you're going to need Byron Murphy to pop. You're going to need one of these interior defensive linemen too as well. But if you can get some good play out of those 2 positions, this defense will be fantastic for the Vikings. So I was asking you guys about 2 weeks ago, will the Vikings defense be top 10? I'm going to up it a little bit. Will the Vikings have a top 5 defense in the league this season? Give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no down below in the comments section. Now let's dive into Sam Darnold here. as another big X factor on this team is obviously going to be the quarterback position, Sam Darnold. So I got 5 reasons why you guys should believe in him. Number 1 is he's still only 27 years old. Rodgers made his first start in the league when he was 25. Love made his first start in the league when he was 24. I still think there is a lot, to be told on Sam Darnold's game in the NFL, as he's never had a good support system. And this will be the best support system he has ever had. When he was in New York, it was terrible. The Jets were a joke of an organization. The Panthers, same situation. And then when he was finally with the San Francisco 49ers, he was just a backup to Brock Purdy. But now he has a chance with no rookie quarterback behind him anymore in JJ, with an elite receiver in Jefferson, elite tackle in Darrisaw, Kevin O'Connell. Should be seeing some of the best ball out of Darnold. And, the eyes don't lie with him. He's got top-end arm talent. Like, he can touch every blade of grass on the football field with his arm. It just comes down to decision-making and process during the games. And that's going to be the biggest, kicker with his, with his production this year is we'll be able to, analyze defenses at a quick enough level and just get the ball out quick. But he is able to make every throw. And, that's another reason why I believe in him. But also, he's coming from San Francisco. And I'm a big believer that everybody's a product of their environment. And with him being in San Fran the last couple of years, around John Lynch, around Shanahan, around Purdy, hopefully is just, taking a little bit of each of those people and, turn it into success here for the Vikings. But also, Kevin O'Connell. And I think O'Connell is going to, go down as an undisputed top 10 coach in the league after this year. And I'm a big believer in him as a play caller and just him overall, taking that next step. And, talking about support system here a little more, you still got Justin Jefferson. Like, there is no better safety blanket in the NFL than number 18. Like, him and Tyreek Hill are the only 2 receivers in the league where I truly believe they can go win a football team or win a football game for a team this year. But also Adam New of Vikings Territory wrote this article about Darnold, and I wanted to share with you his thoughts, as I thought I was pretty spot on. As he says, of the 6th season Darnold has played in the NFL, his 2nd season with the Jets was statistically his best. Darnold started in 12 games and had a 7-6 record. He had career highs in completion percentage, passing yards, and touchdowns. If Darnold plays in all 17 regular season games for the Vikings this season, he will surpass those numbers for passing yards and touchdowns. Completion percentage is another matter, but if he can get that figure up into the mid-60s, then Darnold will have a good season. And, honestly, Vikings fans, you don't really have a choice but to believe in Darnold. And I will be optimistic about this football team until they give me a reason not to be. But I'm a believer in Sam Darnold. I got confidence in him. But you guys let me know, what is your confidence level in Sammy Dimes for this upcoming season? Scale it for me, 1 through 10 down below in the comments section. But I do want to talk about Kevin O'Connell here as – I don't want to say he's got pressure on him heading into this year, but let's just say the Vikings, who have a disastrous season, they go 3-14, they get the top pick in the draft. I'm not saying he's going to be fired, but I could see him being on the hot seat. But also, if the Vikings make the playoffs and they outperform expectations, I could see him getting extended immediately after the year. And I think he will be undisputed top 10 head coach in the NFL after this season. And I actually thought O'Connell did a good job of upping his, overall value in the NFL this past season, considering what he did with the likes of Jaron Hall, Nick Mullins, Josh Dobbs. I mean, he had the Vikings winning 7 games with some just terrible quarterback play. And I think it's so funny how anytime you hear an NFL media member talk about the New York Jets, they're always saying like, oh, they won 7 games with Zach Wilson. The Vikings won 7 games with these 3 guys. Like, it was not that big of a difference. And with Sam Darnold now in this man in this offense, I think it could be special. And the Vikings still put up decent numbers last year. Like, points per game obviously wasn't high as you would like it to be, but still 22nd. Yards per game, they're actually 10th in the league. 10th in yards per play. They turned the ball over like crazy this past season. And, third down percentage was about middle of the pack. And all these numbers are with terrible quarterback play and a terrible run game as well, where they rank 29th. If you just get some decent play out of Darnold, I think we'll be talking about Kevin O'Connell in a whole different light this upcoming year. But hey, if you guys made it to the end of today's show, give me a skull down below in the comment section. I want to see where all the real ones are at. And also, if you guys want to give me a follow on Twitter, that's the handle right there, @PatSieps. Thank you guys so much for watching today's show. We'll see you guys next time. As always, SKOL Vikes.